What if happiness is not about finding the perfect life, but about building a better one right now, exactly where you are? What if you have been waiting for circumstances to change when the real power lies in changing yourself? Arthur C. Brooks and Oprah Winfrey have teamed up to write a #1 New York Times bestseller that combines cutting-edge happiness science with decades of wisdom. This book matters because America is in a happiness slump. Over the past decade, the percentage of Americans saying they are not too happy rose from 10% to 24%. Depression rates are skyrocketing, especially among young adults. But here is the good news. Happiness is not a genetic lottery. You either win or lose. It is a skill you can learn, practice, and master. This book gives you the blueprint. Brooks brings rigorous social science from Harvard, while Winfrey shares insights from 25 years of hosting The Oprah Winfrey Show, where she had a front-row seat to both suffering and joy. Together, they offer practical tools you can use today to start building the life you want. Happiness is not what you think it is. Most people misunderstand happiness completely. They think happiness means feeling good all the time, never experiencing pain or struggle. This is false and dangerous because it leads to chasing an impossible goal. Brooks and Winfrey explain that happiness and unhappiness are not opposites. They are processed in different hemispheres of the brain. You can be happy while also experiencing unhappiness. In fact, you need both positive and negative emotions. Happiness is not just a feeling. It has 3 essential components: enjoyment, satisfaction, and meaning. Enjoyment is not the same as pleasure. Pleasure is an animal phenomenon, a primal urge that cares only for survival. The pursuit of pleasure alone leads to addiction and misery. Enjoyment is pleasure plus people plus memory. Beer commercials never show someone alone drinking in their apartment. They show friends together, creating memories, because that is what makes drinking enjoyable rather than just pleasurable. Satisfaction is the joy you get after struggling for something. If you could walk into a college and receive a diploma without any work, there would be no satisfaction in it. Satisfaction requires effort and sacrifice, but it is also temporary. You have to keep generating it. Brooks describes satisfaction as all your haves divided by all your wants. Most people try to increase happiness by increasing the numerator, getting more stuff. But the better strategy is managing the denominator, reducing your wants. Meaning is the most important component. It gives you a sense of coherence, the understanding that things happen for a reason. It provides direction and purpose. Without meaning, enjoyment and satisfaction feel empty. Meaning comes from connecting to something larger than yourself, whether through faith, service to others, or contributing to causes that matter. Winfrey shares her own story of falling into a void. After the Oprah Winfrey Show ended in 2011, she wondered what she would do next. Broadway seemed appealing until she imagined the details. Living in New York, performing 8 shows a week. Once she pictured it clearly, she realized it was not for her. She had to let go of what she thought would make her happy and discover what actually would. This required honest self-examination and acceptance of her true preferences, not idealized fantasies. Understanding your emotional fingerprint. Everyone has a unique emotional pattern that shapes their experience of life. Some people have intense, positive, and negative emotions. Others experience emotions less intensely. Neither pattern is better or worse. They simply require different management strategies. Brooks explains that roughly 50% of your happiness level is determined by your genetic set point. About 25% comes from life circumstances. The remaining 25% is under your control through choices and practices. Understanding your emotional fingerprint starts with measuring it. Brooks recommends the PANAS scale, which assesses positive and negative affect. This simple survey reveals whether you tend toward high or low positive emotions and high or low negative emotions. Once you understand your pattern, you can work with it rather than against it. Someone with high negative affect might never become a carefree optimist. but they can learn to manage their emotions so they do not control their life. A person with high negative affect might constantly worry, seeing potential disasters everywhere. Without understanding this as their natural temperament, they might believe something is fundamentally wrong with them. With understanding, they recognize this as their emotional fingerprint and develop strategies to observe worries without being consumed by them. They learn to use their sensitivity as strength, noticing important details others miss while not letting anxiety drive their decisions. Research from the Harvard Study of Adult Development, one of the longest-running studies of human happiness, shows that relationships are the most powerful predictor of well-being. People who were more socially connected were happier, healthier, and lived longer than those who were isolated. This finding held true regardless of wealth, fame, or professional success. The quality of relationships mattered more than any other factor in determining life satisfaction. Metacognition, your most powerful tool. The foundation of emotional self-management is metacognition, literally thinking about thinking. Your brain has two main systems processing emotions. The limbic system, a 40-million-year-old structure, produces raw emotions automatically. A car speeds towards you, and fear floods your body instantly. A friend insults you, and anger flares. This system reacts without conscious thought, but humans also have a prefrontal cortex, the evolved part of the brain behind your forehead that handles conscious reasoning. Metacognition means using your prefrontal cortex to observe emotions produced by your limbic system rather than being controlled by them. Oprah describes it perfectly. Your feelings are not driving the bus, you are. This does not mean suppressing emotions or pretending they do not exist. It means creating space between feeling an emotion and deciding how to respond. Brooks outlines a 4-step metacognition practice. First, observe your feelings as if they were happening to someone else. Notice them consciously, without judgment. Second, write them down. Journaling creates psychological distance and clarity. Third, analyze them. Ask why you feel this way and whether the emotion reflects reality or distorted thinking. Fourth, choose your response. Decide consciously how to act rather than reacting automatically. A person receives critical feedback at work. Their limbic system floods them with shame and anger. Without metacognition, they might lash out defensively or spiral into self-hatred. With metacognition, they pause. They notice the shame and anger, write it down, and analyze it. Is the feedback accurate? Does it threaten their identity? What response would serve them best? This process takes minutes, but transforms the situation from reactive to intentional. Dr. Richard Davidson from the University of Wisconsin has used brain imaging to study experienced meditators. His research shows that meditation practice literally changes brain structure, strengthening areas associated with attention and emotional regulation while reducing activity in areas associated with distress and mind-wandering. These changes are not just functional, but structural, demonstrating the brain's remarkable neuroplasticity, choosing better emotions. Once you have mastered metacognition, you can practice emotional substitution, consciously choosing more productive emotions. Humans have a negativity bias, paying more attention to threats than opportunities. This kept our ancestors alive, but makes modern life unnecessarily stressful. You can counteract this bias by intentionally cultivating positive emotions. The 4 emotions Brooks and Winfrey recommend are gratitude, hope, humor, and compassion. Gratitude shifts focus from what you lack to what you have. Research shows that people who keep gratitude journals writing down 3 things they are grateful for each day experience significant increases in well-being within weeks. The practice rewires the brain to notice positive aspects of life rather than fixating on problems. Hope is not naive optimism that everything will work out perfectly. It is the conviction that you can take action to improve things. Hope requires identifying specific goals and developing concrete plans to achieve them. This sense of agency, the belief that your actions matter, is powerfully associated with life satisfaction and resilience in the face of setbacks. Humor, especially the ability to laugh at yourself and your circumstances, correlates with self-esteem, optimism, and life satisfaction while decreasing depression and anxiety. Humor creates psychological distance from problems, making them feel more manageable. It also strengthens social bonds, as shared laughter is one of the most powerful connectors between people. Compassion differs from empathy in important ways. Empathy means feeling others' pain, which can lead to emotional exhaustion and burnout. Compassion means recognizing others' suffering and taking action to help without absorbing their pain. Compassion is sustainable and energizing rather than depleting. A healthcare worker treats patients experiencing trauma every day. If they rely solely on empathy, they absorb patient suffering until they burn out and leave the profession. If they develop compassion, they maintain boundaries while still providing excellent care. They recognize suffering, feel motivated to help, but do not carry the emotional weight home. This allows them to sustain their work long-term while protecting their own well-being, becoming less self-focused. Modern culture encourages constant self-focus. Social media trains us to curate our image, compare ourselves to others, and monitor what people think of us. This self-absorption is toxic to happiness. Brooks explains that the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, a brain region involved in social pain, lights up when people feel excluded or judged. Constant self-monitoring keeps this region activated, creating chronic low-level distress. The antidote is turning attention outward. Instead of asking what the world thinks of you, ask what you can contribute to the world. Instead of ruminating on your problems, focus on the beauty and wonder around you. Instead of seeking validation, offer genuine interest in others. This shift feels counterintuitive but transforms well-being. Brooks shares his own experience implementing this practice. He noticed he spent enormous mental energy worrying about his reputation and how people perceived him. This self-focus was exhausting and ultimately pointless because he could not control others' opinions. He decided to stop checking his social media mentions and focusing on criticism. Instead, he focused on doing work he believed in and serving others. His happiness and productivity both increased dramatically. Research on awe, the emotion experienced when encountering something vast that transcends your understanding, shows it has unique benefits. Awe makes people feel smaller, which sounds negative but actually reduces self-focus and increases prosocial behavior. People who regularly experience awe are more generous, patient, and connected to others. Simple practices like watching sunsets, stargazing, or visiting natural wonders can cultivate. Building the first pillar, family. Family relationships provide the highest highs and lowest lows of human experience. They are love and conflict mashed together. No family is perfect, so the goal is not perfection, but functional imperfection. Brooks and Winfrey offer practical strategies for strengthening family bonds despite inevitable challenges. Stop trying to read each other's minds. Assumptions about what family members think or feel create endless misunderstandings. Instead, ask directly and listen openly. Do not ask family members to change their core values. You can request behavior changes, but trying to change who someone fundamentally is creates resentment and failure. Do not treat family members as emotional ATMs, expecting them to constantly provide support without reciprocating. Communication during conflict matters enormously. Ignoring conflicts does not work because conflicts generally do not die of old age. They fester and explode later. But engaging conflict requires skill. Focus on specific behaviors rather than attacking character. Use I statements rather than you accusations. Take breaks when emotions run too high for productive conversation. Practice forgiveness, not as condoning harm, but as releasing the burden of resentment that poisons your own well-being. A mother and adult daughter have a fraught relationship. The mother constantly criticizes the daughter's choices. The daughter feels judged and withdraws. The pattern repeats for years. Finally, the daughter uses these tools. She tells her mother directly, when you criticize my parenting, I feel disrespected and hurt. I need you to trust that I am doing my best. The mother feels defensive but realizes her daughter is right. She apologizes and commits to changing her behavior. The relationship does not become perfect overnight, but it begins healing because they communicated honestly rather than mind-reading and assuming. Building the second pillar, friendship. Friendship accounts for nearly 60% of the difference in happiness between individuals, regardless of whether someone is introverted or extroverted. Deep, real friendships are not optional luxuries, but essential components of well-being. Yet modern life makes friendship harder. People move frequently, work long hours, and substitute digital connection for face-to-face interaction. Research shows you need at least one close friend besides your partner. The upper limit is around 10 friendships you can realistically maintain as close relationships. The exact number depends on your personality and life circumstances. Quality matters far more than quantity. One friend who truly knows and accepts you provides more happiness than dozens of superficial acquaintances. Brooks discusses Aristotle's 3 types of friendship: utility, pleasure, and virtue. Utility friendships are transactional, based on what people can do for each other. Pleasure friendships are based on enjoyment, people you have fun with but do not go deep with. Virtue friendships are based on mutual admiration of each other's character and desire for each other's growth. These are the friendships that sustain happiness long-term. Technology poses unique challenges to friendship. Social media creates the illusion of connection while actually increasing loneliness. Endless scrolling through curated highlight reels triggers comparison and envy. Text messaging is efficient but lacks the emotional depth of voice or face-to-face conversation. Brooks and Winfrey recommend using technology to enhance in-person relationships rather than replace them. A person realizes their friendships have become shallow. They text frequently but rarely meet up. Conversations stay level. They commit to changing this pattern. They reach out to 3 friends and propose regular in-person meetings. Monthly coffee with one friend, weekly walks with another, quarterly weekend trips with a third. These friendships deepen dramatically. They share vulnerabilities, offer support through challenges, and celebrate successes. The investment of time and vulnerability pays enormous dividends in connection and joy. Building the third pillar, work. Work is how you spend your days being useful to others and yourself, whether paid or unpaid. Meaningful work is essential to happiness, but the relationship between work and well-being is complex. Work can provide purpose, community, and a sense of accomplishment. It can also consume your life, damage your health, and become an addiction. Brooks identifies 4 career models. Linear careers follow a straightforward upward trajectory in one field. Steady-state careers involve doing the same work you love for decades. Transitory careers involve frequent job changes with little connection between them. Spiral careers involve dramatic shifts every decade or so, using skills from one career in another while gaining diverse experiences. No model is inherently superior. The key is finding what fits your values and personality. The concept of earned success is crucial. Earned success means accomplishing something through your own effort and skill. It gives you a sense of efficacy, the belief that you are effective and capable. This sense of accomplishment drives commitment and job satisfaction far more than money or status. People who feel they are earning success through their work are dramatically happier than those who feel they are just going through motions. Work is not your identity. This distinction protects you from devastation when work circumstances change. You are not your job title, your company, or your professional achievements. You are a whole person with multiple sources of meaning. Work addiction is real and destructive. Workaholics use work to numb difficult emotions and avoid other aspects of life. They sacrifice relationships, health, and ultimately happiness for professional achievement that leaves them empty. An executive realizes he has let work consume his life. He misses his children's activities, neglects his marriage, and has no hobbies outside work. He feels successful by external measures, but profoundly unhappy. He decides to change. He sets firm boundaries, leaving work at specific times to have family dinners. He takes up painting, something he loved in college. He starts volunteering. Initially, he feels guilty and anxious about pulling back from work. But over months, he discovers his work performance actually improves because he is more focused and creative. More importantly, his life feels rich and meaningful in ways professional success never provided. Building the fourth pillar, faith. Faith is the fourth and final pillar of happiness. This does not necessarily mean religion, though religious belief and practice are strongly associated with well-being. Faith means something larger than yourself, something transcendent that provides perspective and meaning. It could be connection to nature, commitment to a cause, or spiritual practices like meditation and prayer. The science on faith is crystal clear. Transcendental beliefs and experiences dramatically aid efforts to get happier. They shift focus outside yourself, build compassion, and cultivate gratitude. They provide hope about the future, a sense of life purpose, and healthy self-esteem. They connect you to communities of shared meaning and ritual. Brooks discusses his own Catholic faith and how it shapes his understanding of happiness. He explains that many wisdom traditions, from Buddhism to Stoicism to Christianity, teach that attachment to worldly things causes suffering. The four idols identified by Thomas Aquinas, money, power, pleasure, and prestige, occupy our days and waste our lives when we chase them as ultimate goals. True happiness comes from transcending these attachments and connecting to something eternal. Even for people without traditional religious belief, cultivating experiences of transcendence enhances well-being. This might involve time in nature, creating or experiencing art, meditation practices that quiet the ego, or serving causes larger than personal benefit. These experiences provide perspective, making daily problems feel less overwhelming and life feel more meaningful. A person who describes themselves as spiritual but not religious feels something missing from their life. They try various practices: hiking in mountains, attending meditation retreats, volunteering at a homeless shelter, taking art classes. Through experimentation, they discover that spending time in nature and creating pottery provide them with transcendent experiences. They feel connected to something vast and timeless. These practices become regular parts of their life, providing grounding and meaning that careers and relationships, while important, cannot fully provide alone. The power of love. Throughout the book, Brooks and Winfrey return to one fundamental truth. Love is the force that supports all four pillars and enriches every practice. Love is not just a romantic feeling, but a commitment to the well-being of others. It is what makes family bonds worth maintaining through conflict, what makes friendships sources of joy, what makes work meaningful when it serves others, and what makes faith real when it drives compassion. Brooks shares the story of his mother-in-law, Albina Quevedo. At age 93, as she lay dying in the Barcelona apartment she had lived in for 50 years, she told him something remarkable: "I am much happier now than I was back then." Brooks was shocked. Albina had not walked in 2 years. She had suffered immensely during the Spanish Civil War. Her husband abandoned her after she gave birth to 3 children, sending her into poverty and single motherhood. For years, she felt miserable and hopeless. But at age 45, Albina enrolled in college to become a teacher. That job offered meaningful work, new friends from teaching in impoverished neighborhoods, and financial stability. With those improvements, her family life fell into place. She took control of what she could control and built a life she wanted. Decades later, facing death, she could truthfully say she was happy. Her story illustrates that you can get happier even with immense challenges, sometimes because of those challenges if you respond to them with intentionality and courage. Your challenge: you now have the tools and framework to start building the life you want. The question is whether you will use them. Change requires effort, commitment and practice. It will not happen overnight. Some progress will be immediate, and people around you will notice positive changes. Other lessons will take months or years to become internal and automatic. That is not bad news, because the process of managing yourself and making progress is a fun adventure. Getting happier becomes a new way of life. Your challenge is this: choose one practice from this book to implement this week. Maybe it is starting a gratitude journal, writing 3 things you appreciate each evening. Maybe it is reaching out to a friend you have not spoken to in months and scheduling time together. Maybe it is practicing metacognition, spending 5 minutes each morning observing your emotions without judgment. Maybe it is setting a boundary at work to protect time for family or hobbies. Start small, but start now. Delaying means waiting for no good reason, missing more time being happier, and missing opportunities to help others be happier as well. You are not helpless against the tides of life. With greater understanding of how your mind and brain work, you can build the life you want. Starting inside with your emotions, and then turning outward to your family, friendships, work, and spiritual life. Thank you for watching. If this video gave you practical tools to start building a happier life, subscribe to our channel for more transformative book summaries. Visit our channel for more books on personal development, psychology, and living with purpose. Happiness is not a destination, but a direction. Start moving toward it today.